Why can't I sleep?
What?
Something's wrong.
Oh no! Don't tell me he was never human all along. She just took away his mind reading ability. What a twist that would be!
Something is indeed wrong, boy. You're in the demon world, and you won't even acknowledge your demon side.
Huh? What are you doing here?
Observing a disappointment for amusement. You keep continuing to fail at living so much that it's become a wonderful form of entertainment. The demon who lost his powers. Doesn't that sound absolutely ridiculous? Let's replace it with the demon whose wife almost became the demon lord's next bed bitch.
That's a very long title.
What do you want?
Oh, come now, don't be so hostile. You'll wake the human up.
She and I are both human.
I cannot believe it. Is that what you still think, boy? Do you truly believe yourself to be human?
Oh, that's so sad, though.
Yes. No matter how many times you taught me, I know the truth. I am human.
Well, I hate to break the delusion you may be under, but you should know that becoming a human is impossible for a demon.
That's not true. I've been a human for over 2 years now. I don't believe you.
Then you are more of a disappointment than I imagined. God, why don't you just give up? Then again, if you gave up, then I would lose my entertainment.
Leave.
Fine, fine, I shall. But heed my words, boy. Tomorrow will be a very rough awakening for you. I can feel it.
Okay, so that was a scene only we were privy to and not Angel. Interesting. That's a first, I think. The morning rose with me stretching and yawning the sleep out of my body. I surprisingly had a peaceful night, but apparently Damien didn't, as he wasn't in bed with me. I looked at the side to see him not under the sheets with me, but standing by the fireplace, staring into the flames with bags under his eyes. I slowly rose from the bed and covered my mouth as another yawn escaped me. Damien? At the sound of my voice, Damien looked over, eyes glazed over in exhaustion. I could tell that something had kept him up, so I slid my legs off of the bed and walked over to him, wrapping my arms around him. What's wrong? I looked up into his violet and blue eyes, trying to find an answer within them, despite it being impossible. Whatever it was that kept him up, I wanted to know and try to help. Still, Damien remained silent. His arms, however, wrapped themselves around my form and gently pulled me against his body, leaning his forehead against mine. With a soft, tired sigh, Damien closed his eyes and gave me a small squeeze.
Did you sleep well?
I nodded, but remained concerned. If something was wrong, I wanted to know and try to help him get over it. Still, Damien said nothing and just smiled at me.
Good. That's good.
What about you? Come on now. I needed to know what was wrong. Something about Damien didn't seem to be okay, and I wanted to see what I could do. Damien simply stared down at me, exhaustion plaguing his eyes before shaking his head.
Nothing's wrong. At least, I don't think so.
Then why do you look so tired? Damien pressed his lips together and looked down at the space between us, almost in shame. What was he hiding?
I didn't sleep much last night. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize for that. I furrowed my eyebrows and cupped his cheek. He was warm, probably from sitting in front of the fire for a long while. Still, I was now worried for Damien. Maybe you should head back to bed and try to catch some sleep. Damien opened his mouth to speak, but was interrupted by the sound of a pounding fist at our door.
Oi! Got some food! Let us in!
Rise and shine!
Ooh. Damien and I stared at the door before holding hands and circling around the bed to sit on the edges of it. As we settled onto the mattress, Damien called out, masking his exhaustion.
Come in.
The door opened to reveal the other incubi and their wives, who began to slowly file in, each with a plate of food in their hands. Carrie and Sam, however, had 2 each and passed us their extra plates.
There you go.
Thanks, Carrie.
There you go, bro.
Thank you, Sam.
The group settled into the room, making themselves comfy whether they were standing or sitting on the bench. As I looked down at the plate in my hands, I took note of the food on it. Jerky, cheese, fruit, and bread. Simple. I began to chow down on the fruit as James cleared his throat.
So, we need to discuss training.
Sam and Matthew let out a simultaneous groan, obviously not in the mood to get into the conversation James wanted to start up.
Do we have to? Can't we wait until after breakfast?
I was literally just thinking that, like, come on, we can't even eat breakfast first, James? Gosh.
As much as I would agree, we are strapped for time. We need to settle a plan, and soon.
We train like we used to do. Go and kick the bastard's ass, then we go home. Done.
Sam began to stuff his face, finished saying his piece, as James pinched the bridge of his nose and let out a sigh of irritation. Carrie grabbed Sam's shoulder and shook it slightly, making him look up at her.
As awesome as you are, I don't think that'll be enough.
Carrie's so cool.
Indeed. We may be 5 strong, but we'd still be going up against the man who has always been stronger than all of us combined. We need to think logically about this.
Well, not to bring up the elephant in the room, but aren't you guys kind of downy, brother? At least demon-wise?
Wow, thanks, Norin. Everyone looked over at Norin, taking in what she had said. She was right. Damien was human now and couldn't train like a demon, right? Damien looked down at his plate again and began to eat in silence. What was wrong? Have you tried to access your powers since believing you became human 2 years ago? The others continued to chat, ignoring me and Damien.
While Damien may be human now, he can still fight.
Any human can fight, really, if you piss them off enough. I think Damien's got more of a reason to be pissed off than anyone else.
Yeah, all 5 of us can kick his ass! 4 demons in a human style!
Oh, Matthew.
Well, not exactly.
At that moment, everyone turned their heads to see Diana at the door. To my surprise, her expression was a very guilt-driven and regretful demeanor. Something in my gut began to churn. What did Diana mean? What did she have in mind?
Not exactly?
You're not exactly down a brother. At least not in the sense you are insinuating.
You lied to me too, Diana. I thought we had something special. Ah! Diana stepped further into the room, placing her hands together by her stomach and looking to Damien, who simply looked back at her with tired but stern eyes.
What do you mean?
You know. The room began to fill with a tense aura, making it clear that Diana was going to drop some sort of bombshell on us. In a fit of discomfort, Sam rolled his shoulders and practically spat out at Diana.
Well, out with it.
With a heavy and low breath, Diana looked into Damien's piercing gaze, no longer able to hide what secret she was keeping.
Damien, can you read my mind right now?
Awkward. Silence once again trickled into the air. I looked at Damien, now very confused and concerned. Did he still have his mind-reading abilities? I thought she turned him human. He wasn't a demon anymore, right? As I stared, Damien kept his gaze locked on Diana, concentrating on her. Eerily slowly, his eyes began to widen with fearful dread. Was he able to read her mind after all? Oh no. Oh, come on now. No! I was so excited to see him, how he would deal with stuff being a human, but we just had to retroactively make him a demon again. Oh, poor Damien. He'll never get his wish. The next second became blurred as Damien pounced off of the bed and charged at Diana, slamming her into the wall by her neck.
You lied to me!
Damien!
Hey!
You swore that I would be human!
I instantly stood, lost in a state of shock from seeing Damien lock Diana in a fist chokehold, pressing her hard against the stone wall behind her. Naturally, Diana gripped Damien's wrist, trying to pry it off of her.
Why can I read your thoughts?
Desperate for air, Diana lifted her leg up and kicked Damien off of her, vaulting him back to slam into Sam and Carrie. Diana buckled to the ground, coughing wildly, as Sam managed to catch Damien and keep them both upright as Carrie held onto the bench to keep from falling back. Damien! I instantly rushed over to Damien, pulling him from Sam's hold and wrapping my arms around him. He was shaking, and I caught sight of tears running down his cheeks as if he was trying to disbelieve what was happening.
What did you do to him?
Diana lifted her head and grasped her neck. However, her expression wasn't one of rage, but still of deep regret. She knew that this would happen, and this was a deserved punishment. She expected this.
I never turned you human. I only drained you of your energy through a ritual. It was supposed to completely wipe out any need for energy, making you human. But you've never been completely transformed.
Ah. Damien attempted to lunge at Diana again, causing me to instinctively grip onto him and keep him back. None of this made sense. If he was still a demon, then eventually he would have needed energy, yet there was no point where he drained it from me. But Damien never felt like a demon. We've been practically magic-free for 2 years. That doesn't make sense.
I've had no magic, no mind reading for 2 years. I never felt the need to feed or drain any energy the entire time. How is this possible?
You're in the demon world. This world is full of magic, strong enough to rekindle your abilities. The human world is too pure to give your body the power it needed to convert back to your demon state.
Oh boy. Oh boy. The entire situation became a myriad of confusion. Damien never became human? Diana didn't fulfill her end of the deal? What was going on? Damien eventually slumped into my arms, his adrenaline completely drained as he took in the truth of what had become of him. At the same time, the situation hit me as well. Damien was still a demon, unconsciously so, but still unchanged. A part of me was relieved, while the other part of me felt incredibly sorry for him. Why is a part of us really... I don't understand this feeling of angels at all. It's like so opposite from the first game.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Oh. Damien looked up at Diana, eyes full of tired rage. Diana stared back, flinching at the sight. I could feel the anger revolving around Damien's body as I held him close to me, which in turn almost frightened me.
You'll never be sorry for anything. The Princess of Lilith is too prideful to give a damn about anyone but herself, and it's always been that way.
I could hear the venom snaking into his words as he struck them at the succubus. However, there was also deep pain and hurt. Who wouldn't be? He had been living a lie, and the reality of the truth was crashing down around him.
Was it funny? Tricking me into believing you? Oh, it must have been. Because you fooled me for the past 2 years and managed to get away with my energy. You always get what you want, don't you?
Okay, that's enough, Damien. He was right, this was unfair, but Diana did what was the closest thing to making him human. She didn't expect him to come back to the demon world and rekindle his powers, so in a way she did give him what he wanted. And she owned up to it instead of letting him find out for himself, which couldn't have been easy, so there's that. Diana slowly stood and rubbed her neck, rogue tears running down her face, but her expression contorted to one of cold hatred.
Well, the joke's on me then. I returned to see my kingdom in flames and my family gruesomely slaughtered. So I guess I didn't get what I wanted either.
That caused silence to engulf the room. That news formed a dark pit in my stomach, forcing me to imagine such a scene and shake it out of my thoughts furiously. Damien didn't speak. Instead, he moved and sat down on the bed, his head in his hands as he curled over his knees. I followed, wrapping my arms around him comfortingly. Damien's brothers, however, each took a step towards Diana.
Give Damien his energy back.
Impossible.
Like hell it is! If he's still a demon, he needs his energy to fight.
I've spent the last 10 years fighting the Demon Lord with both of their energies. I'm not as powerful as I was then, so I no longer have the ability to give him anything without risking my life.
Who said we gave a damn about you?
I was thinking that. Part of me was like, so? And of course Sam would be the one to be like, yeah, so? Sam stepped up to Diana, leaning nose to nose with her. His anger flared around his body, giving an intimidating warning that didn't seem to faze her.
You fucked over our brother. We don't give a shit about what happened because of your fuck-up. You're gonna fix this. Or else.
That's enough, Sam.
Eric, seemingly the only sensible one of the group of incubi, grabbed onto Sam's shoulder and pulled him away from Diana. Sam gave in, still glaring at the succubus, before sitting down beside his wife on the bench. I, however, became torn. What was going to happen now? Damien was a demon again and was getting his powers back. Yet Damien didn't want his powers back at all, even at the risk of being the odd brother out. This entire situation became a conglomerate mess of uncertainty and confusion that I had to lower my head and close my eyes for a moment. Diana wiped her eyes, letting out a small sigh before she glanced around the room.
I will do what I can to fix this issue. For now, however, you can correctly assume that the 5 of you are all demons and can fight with your incubus abilities.
With a cold glare, Diana locked eyes with Sam. As she spoke, Sarah, who had only just entered the room, stepped behind Diana to add to her intimidation.
And if any of you dare step up to me and threaten me again, you will not live to see the final battle.
Sam moved to stand, sudden anger flashing through his expression, before Carrie grabbed hold of his arm and pulled him back down to sit beside her. Diana closed her eyes and took a breath before crossing her arms and regaining her professional composure. The air was filled with anxious irritation, but we had to let it go for now. We would hash everything out at a later time, but for now we had to focus on what was going to bring me and Damien home. So let's pick a trainer, everybody. Right? Just move on from all of that. What would the others teach me? And I choose Rabbit this time. Diana nodded. Rabbit was sweet, but I could tell that she was the wisest of the bunch. She'd be able to show me some ways to use the earth and defend myself. She was definitely the one. With that, Diana turned on her heel and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Everyone in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Sarah left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun.
Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
As we all finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. The Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. I was excited to finally see what Rabbit could teach me. She apparently knew a lot about magic, so maybe that would be able to help me defend myself and help win this war. Still, the excitement of the situation was hard to ignore. What would Rabbit teach me? Would it be something to do with nature? With fire? With animals? There were 100 things that could have been the possibility, and I was eager to eventually find out and know. I was guided to a large hall, originally blocked off for Sarah and Diana's training. However, because my safety became the priority, Rabbit and I were given the room to use to train and practice. That was awfully nice. As I peered into the space, I saw Rabbit face and smile at me.
There you are. Come on in.
I smiled, happy to know how patient and kind she was, or at least presented herself to be. Yeah, we've been burned a few times with characters like that, so let's just be cautious, shall we? I stepped into the room and walked towards her, taking in the space and how large it was. Nice room.
Isn't it? It's perfect for what I have in mind to teach you.
There it was. My eagerness began to bounce in my chest as I grinned at Rabbit, excited. What do you plan to teach me? Rabbit giggled at me, which made me tilt my head a bit in confusion. Was what I said funny?
I plan to teach you how to properly defend yourself. To do that, I need to see what you can do with your spirit.
I nodded and stood at attention, ready for my first lesson. Rabbit nodded back to me before stepping back and pointing her staff at the ground between us. The orb on her staff began to glow a bright blue color as a large wisp snaked out from it into the air. I watched in awe as it took shape from being a simple cloud of magical smoke to being a large blue misty bear. Oh. Whoa! I instantly jumped back, surprised at the roar it let loose in intimidation. Rabbit brought her staff back to her side as the bear got onto all four of its paws, growling in my direction.
This is an animal guardian, a personification of your inner strength and power. Once summoned, it will protect you with their life.
I stared at the bear before me, watching it peer into my soul with its pure white eyes and pant in anger. Rabbit had a bear hiding inside of her? That was shocking to say the least. As terrible as it was, I imagined her to have a rabbit spirit. Well, a rabbit probably couldn't protect you all that well. Rabbit placed her hand on her chest and nodded to me.
Focus on your spirit. Feel it try to take shape and release it.
I looked down at my chest before closing my eyes and laying a hand over my heart. I had to focus on my spirit? It was strange to imagine doing so, but I attempted anyway. As I stood there, I could feel energy flow within my body, ebbing and weaving through my veins like a bloodstream. It felt incredibly odd to feel such sensations, but I continued to focus on my soul, trying to do as Rabbit asked. At last, I latched onto a strange feeling in my chest, growing larger and larger with each breath I took. Soon it became unbearable to keep it inside. I held my hand out, feeling it want to be released, and watched in shock as a white and lavender mist jutted out from my palm and land on the floor, revealing... Ooh, I get to pick. A lion, a wolf, or a rabbit. Okay, we won't pick a rabbit, because that's just insulting, I think. Well, I've always been a cat person myself. Nice. I stared wide-eyed as the mist formed into a grand lion who seemed to be as big as the bear, if not bigger. How the hell did that happen? Despite its form being gaseous and ethereal, the fur that covered its body was glimmering in lavender, while its claws, bared teeth, majestic mane, and eyes were a pure white, compared to the bluish white of the bear. It let out a large roar in reply to the sight of the bear, standing proud and ready to attack on my command. Rabbit seemed surprised as well, gripping her staff in instinctual fear before inhaling deeply and taking in the sight of my animal guardian.
Very good. Your spirit is strong.
Hooray. I smiled, happy to know that the size signified my power. I was shocked that I was able to match Rabbit's guardian, but the thought went away as Rabbit pointed her staff at me.
Attack!
Upon her command, the bear reared back on its hind legs and let out a large roar before charging at my guardian. I quickly followed suit. Go! My guardian squatted on its forelimbs before pouncing off of the ground and charging forward as well. Both animals rammed their heads together and pressed against each other before the bear took a swipe at my guardian, forcing it to the side. I didn't expect to be affected by it, feeling pain hit my chest hard internally. What the hell happened? Did the attack on my guardian actually affect me? I didn't get time to think on it, however. I became open as the bear continued to rush forward, naming me its target. Before it could reach me, however, my guardian leapt through the air and swiped his claws at the bear's neck, causing it to fall to the side. I watched in disbelief as my guardian took the bear down. Grab it? Grab at its neck and its teeth and shaking violently and causing the bear to release a roar of pain. Rabbit, on the other hand, gripped her neck and let out a yelp of pain. Rabbit! I couldn't say any more before my lion became victim to one of the bear's claws slamming into its body, forcing it off with a whine. I felt a deep jab in my shoulder in the same spot where the lion was hit, causing me to grip my arm and rub over the pain. The bear got up onto its feet, as did my guardian, and they snarled at each other, circling one another to wind up with the bear back in front of Rabbit, and my guardian in front of me. I was astonished at the event, straightening up and taking in what had happened. Rabbit let out a pained smile before tapping her staff beside her.
Heal.
The bear, who was growling before, stopped and simply kept a cold eye on my guardian, remaining in place as Rabbit stepped up beside it.
This is the power of an animal guardian. They obey and protect, but they are still connected to our spirit. What pain they feel, we feel as well.
I grimaced, calling for my guardian to stand down as well. While it seemed really cool and effective for protection, if the animal guardian became mortally wounded, the same would happen to me, or so I assumed. Rabbit lifted her hand and rested it on the bear, showing that the guardian had physical weight, and patted over its fur.
However, we can only feel its pain. We do not bleed or die if our guardians are attacked and killed.
Okay. That's a bit of a relief. Rabbit rubbed her neck and smiled at me.
I will say, your guardian is quite strong for having never been summoned before.
I felt flattered that my spirit was able to impress Rabbit. I guess that was a plus towards this training. Rabbit walked forward and held her hand out to my guardian, who seemed wary at first. Hey, let her. I didn't know why I was speaking to it casually, but something felt right about it. The animal was essentially a part of me, and I could feel that it understood me regardless of what I said. The guardian calmed down and leaned its head towards Rabbit, who placed her hand on its head and ran her fingers along its fur.
Truly magnificent! I had only ever seen another guardian this large once before.
Oh? I smirked, looking to the bear. Your own, right? Rabbit shook her head and looked to me, stopping her gesture on my animal.
No, from, Diana.
I figured. I had to stop myself from dropping my jaw. Diana was able to do this? Then again, I didn't think this kind of magic was limited to just me and Rabbit. Was any magic truly bound to only one demon type? Rabbit acknowledged my facial expression with a slight smile.
She has a very powerful guardian. I'm surprised she doesn't use it.
That's because I don't need to.
Oh. Rabbit and I turned our heads to see Diana by the doorway, smiling at both of us. As she walked in, she observed our animals and nodded, visually impressed.
I assume everything is going well?
Great, actually. Look at the size of her animal guardian.
Poor Rabbit, she just can't get over it. Diana walked over and sized up my animal with her eyes, nodded in agreement with Rabbit's excitement.
Quite impressive. I expect good things to come from this training.
I am curious. What's your animal guardian? Diana looked over at me in slight surprise before smirking a bit and bringing up 2 fingers near her head. As she swung them to point at the wall, a purple mist flew from her fingers and spiraled into the air before landing and slowly forming into a purple and black panther. Oh, cool. We both like cats. It snarled as it took shape and swung its gaze over the room and its inhabitants. I was in awe at its size. It was larger than Rabbit's bear, which made me wonder just how powerful Diana was. Diana walked over and ran her hand over its head, running her thumb over the bridge of its nose with a soft chuckle.
A panther guardian and a snake familiar. How odd am I?
Uh-huh. Huh? A snake familiar? I grew confused at what Diana meant, but she simply smiled at me.
You don't wish for me to show you what I mean, dear. I promise you that.
I pressed my lips together, having been denied a chance to see something new. However, if Diana put it as a threat, I had to be cautious. After all, her spirit was visually larger than mine by the size of our guardians. As I looked to Rabbit, I was surprised to see a form of awe and envy in her eyes as she looked at Diana's animal. I guess that was why Diana was the leader of the rebellion, but why was Rabbit envious? Diana willed her guardian away, causing it to fade into the air like a cloud of smoke, before turning back to me.
Well, if you don't mind, I must get back to work. There is a lot that needs to be done, and we have little time to do it.
Diana nodded to us both before turning to leave. However, Rabbit stepped forward.
Diana. May I speak to you in private later, after I have finished training her for the day?
I naturally furrowed my eyebrows. What was she wanting to talk about with Diana? Diana seemed confused as well, looking back to Rabbit, but nodding nonetheless.
Of course. I'll come here when you are finished.
Thank you.
Diana gave one more nod before turning back around and leaving the room. I looked to Rabbit, curious as to what they had to talk about, but if it was important to speak in private, then it was a matter I should keep my nose out of. Rabbit shook her head and smiled at me.
Well now, where were we?
I rolled my shoulders and looked to our 2 animal guardians, seeing them resting on the ground, patiently waiting for us. Were these really only used for battle? I looked back to Rabbit, curious to know the answer. Hey, Rabbit.
What is it?
Are these guardians only meant for battle and defense? Rabbit shook her head and walked over to her bear, petting it softly and making a low but happy grumble escape from it.
Think of these creatures as friends, whom we wish to protect us. A rabbit demon such as myself would benefit greatly from a bear companion.
Right. Both the bear and rabbit looked at me, hoping I understood. I looked to my own animal, confused to why I was able to imagine what mine looked like. The intricacies of this magic seemed over my head, but I accepted it for now with a nod of slight understanding. Until the night we trained furiously, using our animal guardians to show me how to use them, what commands to say, and how to conserve my energy. By the time I left, however, I was exhausted.